Hello, David Hosey from Hosey Consulting and Training. Today I have Glock 19 MOS Generation 5. Got this from Kurt's Discount Guns about 5 weeks ago, right after they got released for about $600. They're just south of Portland. No financial relationship with them. Let me go over what's quickly in the box here. Multiple magazines, ability to change out back straps. The plate that comes on the top. Right now I've got the plate that allows you to fit a Trigicon RMR on it. It comes with the plates for other popular models on here, along with an adjustment on it. I changed out the sights here. This is the basic plastic, you call them plastic. They're iron sights, but basic plastic sights for the Glock. I've changed it out with raised suppressor sights because we're going to mount an RMR on this. I already have. I'm just taking it off for showing you here. Real quick, we'll compare it with a Gen 4 and what are the major improvements in this. Okay, comparing to a Gen 4 here, it's a non-MOS version I've had for several years. We'll also, when I get done here, compare it to this custom slide I had for it. Starting from bottom to top here, obvious on the grip on the frame, this has finger grooves, this does not. Also, this has a flared magazine well. That may not sound, the differences on that may be really subtle. With the flared magazine well, it allows magazines at different angles. I don't know if you can see this here, but I can get like a 45 and push it in really well. It just allows easier angles to get in. For that magazine, so you can be more sloppier with it under speed. The difference with the flare here, it pushes out slightly on my palm and pinky. And without the finger grooves up here, it allows me to feel, at least perceptually feel like a better group here. I measured this around, circled it all around with a string on both, and it's still just about 6 inches. But perceptionally, this seems thinner, and several people who have handled it thought it's been thinner. Going up here, the magazine release is the same. It's reversible, so if you're a lefty here for ambi work. Speaking of ambi, it now has the slide release on both sides, and it functions as a slide lock as well. Nice improvement there. The trigger is slightly better. I think it's just a little less mushy and more of a definitive wall. Reset is crisp. It's still mushy, it's still a Glock trigger. My Gen 4, I've got a ZEV trigger on this, and it is a bit better. It's a little lighter, a little bit better wall. But compared to an original Gen 4 Glock trigger, the Gen 5 is slightly better. It's about halfway to the ZEV trigger, and the ZEV trigger I added on was about $200 installed. Maybe a touch more then. So, good improvement on the trigger. The frame has changed slightly. You've got 2 pins here compared to 3 pins. That means that they're going to probably have Gen 5 specific, like ZEV trigger and other aftermarket accessories. But before we go up to the top here for aftermarket accessories, Gen 4 mags work in there, P mags, both the 17, 21 rounders, previous generations like 3 and otherwise for the 33 rounders, ETS aftermarket mags. Again, I've fired about 500 rounds total in this through all these different magazines, and it all works really well. Now going up to the slide here, we've got some big changes. The obvious one, this is the MOS, so it's got the place where you can take things out. And the sights, you notice here, these are overhanging slightly to the rear. If you can see here, the dovetail where they put the sights is moved slightly back here, so you have better room for the plate here, and more mounting room around there. With some aftermarket sights like this one, it'll overhang. If that bugs you, it's a problem. With me, it doesn't. I guess you that fraction of an inch sight radius will be okay. Giving you slightly better. The other things here is beveled slide where this is not beveled, and front serrations that allows you to get at it from different angles and do it better. I occasionally get some clients that are disabled, either born that way, injuries, accidents, or just old age, and having slide serrations, or the front slide serrations at different parts allows them to grip that better and do a little bit better. We'll also show, when we mount a red dot to this, how that's really helpful for slide manipulation. So what this really adds up on this whole slide here is a lot of what would be considered custom work. And this was a custom slide I got for this Gen 4 just before the Gen 4 MOS came out, like 2 weeks. And it came with a Series 1 Type 6 RMR. The one that's adjustable. It works really well for low light work and even with night vision. Problem with this was it never worked well. It cost me $1,100 with the RMR, and while it has the beveling like on here, so you can get it better into holsters at different angles, and just kind of like what you used to call old school melt carry treatment on that. It's got the front slide serrations. And compared to the Gen 4, it had a slightly lower spot for the plate in there, the mount, like a fraction of an inch. Here, I think it's even. I don't know if you can see that. And also, the plate on here has got two different lockup points for the bottom of the RMR, where this one just had the screw holes up here. So this is actually a solid improvement over what was custom before, and cost me about the cost of this for it, within $100. So next thing we're going to do here is mount up the RMR, also a Crimson Trace white that attaches on, and compare it to a couple of its contemporaries. Real quick note about mounting the RMR and what I'm going to use on the screws for it. I'm also using, since this is an early model, I got to use a proper plate, which I had to buy this extra. This one didn't come with a proper plate. And again, it was just unreliable, regardless of what trigger I ran it with or anything else. Well, this has been, well, it's run like a Glock. It's been quite reliable. But I'm going to mount the screws not with Loctite, but with fingernail polish. These are my daughter's, not mine. I don't think it'd go with my green quite well. And that just gives you just enough break to work on this. On here, the screws that came with this one, and how it was factory locked, actually stripped out with all the factory equipment and how it was done from the factory, and they had to have a gunsmith go down and drill it on out and get it on back to change the battery, because with RMRs, the battery's in the bottom, so you got to change it often. They say the zero changes. Most of the times it doesn't for me when I change batteries. But overall, huge improvement. We'll just attach the RMR, the light here. We'll come on back and compare it with some of its contemporaries. So now I've added the red dot and this Crimson Trace white light here. Think about Glock and how much it dominates the marketplace. It's almost a universal gun in a lot of ways. There's hundreds of different options, but Glock is huge. Crimson Trace makes this only for a few guns, including Glock. This fit the Gen 4, it now fits the Gen 5. And then right off the bat, I'm able to get a holster for it for this combination. The other guns I'm going to show here, you just can't get that compatibility with holsters and accessories custom built for the gun. That's just Glock's market dominance. I'm going to turn off this light here so we don't do negative discharges with the light here as we go through and demonstrate. So we're clear here. First, going to compare it to one of its main competitors or competition, SIG 320. The 320 is taller, maybe a touch beefier. The SIG 320 has got that Romeo 1 light sight on it compared to the RMR. This also has the new shroud that I got in last week. I'll do a quick video here soon on that. It's a huge improvement to the Romeo 1, but it makes it beefier. Width is about the same here. Length, you can see the SIG slide is a little bit shorter. The barrel is also a little bit shorter, but when you add in the beaver tail here, and this without any beaver tail on it, the SIG is just a touch longer. Grip-wise, it feels about the same. I actually measured these with a string and then put it into a tape measure. And the SIG's actually just a touch fatter around. Other thing on size here with that height is height over bore. I set this down here. You can see there where these both sitting where the trigger finger would be. The SIG's barrel is just a touch higher. It gives you a little bit more leverage, which makes it a little tougher to control recoil. When my split times, it's like 1/200ths of a second difference, but that adds up. Which you need quick strings of fire, and we're getting that volley into a target really quick for fighting drills. Trigger, do this really quick so you can see it here. Glock trigger, take up, mushy, I can feel a wall right there, break. Reset, a few tenths of an inch, but not too bad. SIG, take up, a bit of mushiness, then it's a smoother trigger. This is got the upgrade from the recall. It was a real improvement on it. But notice that reset takes a lot longer. It's almost all the way out. So what I find is the SIG is a little bit more wider is the best way I want to put it. It's the words I'm looking for here. It's a wider trigger and not as mushy. It allows me to be a touch more accurate. I can be a lot faster with this Glock's trigger because of the reset. Also, I hadn't talked about barrels here. The marksman barrel on the Glock here makes this fairly accurate. To be honest, they're about the same accuracy, maybe a touch more to this, just with how the trigger goes. I can be accurate at a distance with the Glock. It just takes a little bit more time. I'm talking 30-yard headshots, past 100-yard body shots. Close in, the Glock's trigger, that shorter reset allows me to be actually a bit faster. That might be a perception thing, but the Glock seems just a touch faster. Accuracy, you got to work a little bit more. Comparing the Glock and the Walther, the Glock is a shorter gun. Width-wise, they're about the same. It appears thinner on top here, but the Walther gets fatter towards the bottom, also with these extended slide releases. Length, the Walther is a little bit longer. I'm ignoring the barrel here. Just a fraction a bit more. It's really that height that's the difference. Controls, the Walther button is a little easier to get, and its slide release is much easier to get to. The problem is, if I do a thumbs forward grip on this, I'll have to modify that some, otherwise I'll hit that slide release on that. The Glock has no such problem. Triggers is where the rare difference is here. Oh, before I get to the triggers, real quick, the plate on this and the Glock mounts really low in the hand. The Walther, well, it has 4 plates here. You can mount a whole bunch of different optics. The SIG only has the proprietary optic. The Walther has 4 plates, but the plate had the rear sight attached to it. This is a problem because if I want backup iron sights, I'm kind of tied to the Leupold Delta point with its adjustable rear sight that's added here. And then my front sight, you might have noticed, is almost as tall as the Eiffel Tower. It makes it a bit more awkward, and when for concealment, this height, but these sights really give me a problem getting caught on clothing, where the Glock's a lot just slicker and easier to draw. And just the small size makes it more concealable. We'll do height over bore here. You look at the two, the Walther's a little bit higher, but not much. The sight's much higher, the sight line's higher, but the bore's not too much. So a little bit more leverage and flip on this compared to the Glock. So you'd think the splits would be slightly better with the Glock, like they were with the SIG, but the Walther picks up with it in its trigger. The Walther's trigger is take up, wall, crisp break, short reset. Actually, I messed that reset up there. So right there's the wall, really short reset. In fact, I go past it sometimes. Compare back to that Glock again. Take up a bit of mush, wall, mushy, break. Reset. It's like a 1/10 of an inch difference, but like the short reset on this allowed me to shoot a little faster than the SIG. The short reset on the Walther allows me to even shoot faster, it seems. But it's offset by that high bore axis. And to be honest, when I'll shoot drills with this, when I'm doing strings 3-4 shots, when I look at my split times, there may be 1/100th of a second back and forth, up and down. It's almost identical split times. It's the balance between the trigger and that bore axis really makes a change here. So, or it doesn't make much of a change is what I'm saying. They balance out together on speed. Accuracy, the Walther is just a much more accurate gun. I can do shots with this thing. I can push 50, 60 yard headshots with this if I'm really slowing down. I'm going to take this to some NRA high bullseye competition with it. It's that good of a gun. Well, the Glock, well, I think that might be fun to do. It's just not quite in that same league. Speed close in, it works. They're the same, and accuracy close in is the same. Just the distance where this gets otherwise. Much more concealable gun. Real quick before I go, try show you bore axis of all three. I'm trying to balance my finger between all of it here, so I can get that going. That Glock is just lower, and that SIG is just the highest of the three. Now we'll take it outside, and we're just going to shoot the Glock, show it what it can really do. So, we're doing some more working from the draw and speed drills. A lot of this is grip angle. That hump on here, other pistols don't have. It actually kind of forces your hand up a little bit, which is a good thing. But as I do my presentation on target, I gotta compensate that if I'm used to a Walther or SIG or whatever pistol you're using. If you're used to Glocks, this is the easier one, and then another pistol will be what's difficult for you. So I'll practice this from the draw, 2, 3, 4s. See what it does. It's mostly presentation, then working that recoil really, really quick with accurate fire. Yeah, I gotta watch it because it just wants to come up on me. Yeah, that's finding the rhythm on it. Let's see what we got here. A few more. Yeah, beginning to find it pretty good. That dot really allows both eyes open. And once you get that grip angle down, it's not bad at all. A lot of people think of the red dot as something you can use at long range. I'll roll in some footage here of 100 yards. But it's also a great tool for one-hand manipulation, like this stovepipe. Or if I get a malfunction at close range, and it won't go into battery, I can even work it off the target, shoot again. Really useful for that close manipulation. Just that extra tool is a horn on it. So what do I think of it overall? Well, it's a Glock 19, that Goldilocks between just small enough to carry, just large enough to be a service gun. Really solid, has Glock reliability. It's a great platform for mounting an RMR with the MOS or other optics. Looking at its competition, it's really hard to beat that. With tritium suppressor night sights on it, and that Crimson Trace light, you got good day-night ability. Also, the slide has a lot of improvements that just a couple years ago were custom. I really like the forward serrations, the beveling, just the whole feel of it. The grip itself and that magazine well. It gives me a lot better dynamics than normally that brick on top of a 2x4 for that ergonomic feel to it. The trigger, well, it's still a Glock trigger. It's a better Glock trigger. It's not as good as the aftermarket competition, but it's about halfway there. Overall, if you're a Glock fan, I highly recommend this. If you're not a Glock fan and you're looking to mount red dot optics, this thing's in the running. Again, it's a really good platform for doing it compared to its competitions. I also have that Walther, which is a good example of not how to mount red dots on it. It works, but this is such more of an elegant solution. And that's a good way to describe this. This is an almost elegant Glock. If you think of Glock perfection, this is just a touch more perfection on that Glock perfection. If you hate Glocks, and there's some people that do, give it a try. It's not as bad as you think. Again, that grip feels better. Those little finger groups, getting rid of that, and that magazine well at the bottom flare is really solid. You want to know more about this or even train with this specific gun, contact me. I got my links below. Thank you for your time and consideration. Good day.